My name is Michael Hartley. 6 months ago, I told you the first part of this story. How my family found what we thought was an abandoned child in the northern Minnesota woods in the winter of 2019. How we took it home, cared for it, named it Abel. How for 3 years we raised something we believed was human, something we loved like our own son. But Abel wasn't human. Abel was something else. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting in those woods for exactly the right family to find it, to take it in, to let it into their home. And by the time we understood what we'd really brought into our lives, it was already too late. Part 1 ended with the night everything changed. February 14th, 2022. The night Abel turned 5 years old, estimated age, and we discovered what he really was. The night my wife Sarah walked into his room and found him crouched over our neighbor's cat, eating it. Not like a hungry child, like a predator, like something that had finally stopped pretending to be human. What I'm about to tell you is what happened after that night. The 6 months of hell we lived through trying to understand what Abel was, trying to contain him, trying to protect our other children while being unable to give up on the creature we'd loved for 3 years. The mistakes we made, the lines we crossed, and the night Abel finally showed us his true nature. The night that cost us everything. If you haven't watched part 1, you need to stop right now and watch it. Because what I'm about to describe won't make sense without understanding how we got here. How a rational family ended up trapped in their own home with something wearing the face of their child. Something that was getting stronger, hungrier, and less interested in pretending every single day. Before I continue, I need you to do something. Hit that like button and subscribe. Part 1 of this story reached over 2 million people. Thousands of you have been asking what happened next. This is it. This is the rest of the story. And I'm telling it because other families need to know. Need to understand what they're really looking at if they find something in the woods that seems abandoned, seems helpless, seems human. Because sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's something that's been waiting for centuries for someone stupid enough to take it home. Please share this. Because what happened to my family could happen to yours. Let me take you back to February 14th, 2022. The night Sarah found Abel eating the neighbor's cat in his bedroom. We'd sent our other 2 children, Emma, who was 9, and Lucas, who was 7, to Sarah's parents' house for the weekend. Valentine's Day trip. They weren't home when it happened. Thank God they weren't home. Sarah screamed. I came running. Found her standing in Abel's doorway, hand over her mouth, staring at something I couldn't process. Abel was crouched in the corner of his room, blood covering his mouth and hands, the remains of Mr. Whiskers, the neighbor's orange tabby, spread out in front of him. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was his eyes. They'd changed. No longer the warm brown eyes we'd known for 3 years. They were yellow now, bright, reflective yellow like an animal's eyes catching light. And his teeth. His mouth was open, and I could see teeth that were too sharp, too numerous, arranged in rows that shouldn't be possible in a human mouth. He looked at us and smiled. Not a child smile. Something else. Predatory. Satisfied. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. Waiting for us to finally see what he really was. Abel. Sarah whispered. What are you? He tilted his head, that gesture that had always seemed charming before suddenly seeming alien, wrong. Then he spoke. But his voice was different. Layered. Like multiple voices speaking in unison. You wanted a child, he said. I gave you what you wanted. For a while. I pulled Sarah back, slammed the door, locked it from the outside. We'd installed those locks when Abel started sleepwalking, supposedly for his safety. Now, I was grateful for them for a completely different reason. We stood in the hallway, Sarah shaking, me trying to think through panic. From behind the door, we heard sounds. Not crying, not distress. Laughter. Abel was laughing. High-pitched, delighted laughter that made my skin crawl. We need to call the police, Sarah said. And tell them what? That the child we've been raising for 3 years is actually a monster? They'll think we're insane. They'll take Emma and Lucas away from us for being unfit parents. Mike, there's a dead cat in there. Our son, that thing, whatever it is, killed and ate a cat. We can't just keep this quiet. But I was already thinking like a parent. A parent who'd loved Abel for 3 years. Who'd raised him, taught him to walk, taught him to read, watched him grow. The rational part of my brain knew Sarah was right. But the emotional part, the part that had held Abel when he had nightmares, that had celebrated his birthdays, that had loved him, that part couldn't just give up. We need to understand what's happening first, I said. Maybe it's some kind of medical condition. Some kind of genetic disorder that causes aggressive behavior and physical changes. We need to take him to specialists, get him diagnosed, get him help. Sarah stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But I couldn't just accept that the child we'd loved for 3 years was something inhuman. I needed another explanation. Needed there to be a way to fix this. We kept Abel locked in his room that night. In the morning, he was different again. The yellow eyes were gone, replaced by his normal brown. The teeth looked normal. He sat on his bed crying, saying he didn't know what had happened, didn't remember hurting Mr. Whiskers, was scared and confused. And God help me, I believed him, or wanted to believe him. We cleaned up the remains of the cat, buried them in the backyard. Told the neighbors we'd seen a coyote in the area. Maybe that's what happened to Mr. Whiskers. They believed us. Why wouldn't they? For the next 2 weeks, Abel seemed normal, sweet, affectionate, the perfect child we'd known for 3 years. We almost convinced ourselves that night had been an aberration, a one-time thing. Maybe he'd had a seizure, some kind of neurological episode that caused temporary personality change and hallucinations on our part about the physical changes. We were desperate to believe that. Desperate enough to ignore the evidence. To rationalize the impossible. Then March 3rd happened. I was at work. Sarah was home with Abel. Our other kids were still at Sarah's parents' house. We'd extended their visit, telling ourselves it was just until we understood what was happening with Abel. But really, because we were afraid. Afraid of what might happen if Abel had another episode with Emma and Lucas nearby. Sarah called me at 2 p.m., voice shaking so badly I could barely understand her. Mike, you need to come home right now. Don't ask questions. Just come home. I broke every speed limit getting there. Found Sarah sitting on the front porch, pale, shaking. He's in the basement, she said. I locked him down there. Mike, he killed Duke. Duke was our German shepherd. 12 years old, gentle, loyal, part of our family since before we had kids. What do you mean he killed Duke? I mean I found Abel in the backyard with Duke's throat torn out. There was blood everywhere. And Abel was... Mike, he was eating. Not like a child who doesn't know better. He knew exactly what he was doing. And when I screamed at him, when I grabbed him and dragged him away, he fought me. He's 5 years old, and he fought me with strength that shouldn't be possible. I barely got him into the basement. I went down to the basement. Abel was sitting in the corner, covered in blood, looking at me with those yellow eyes again. But this time, they didn't change back. This time, he didn't pretend to be confused or scared. You should have left me in the woods, he said in that layered voice. I was weak then, starving, barely alive. But you fed me, kept me warm, let me recover. And now I'm strong again. Strong enough. Strong enough for what? I asked. He smiled, showing those impossible rows of teeth. To do what my kind has always done. We wait in the cold places. We wait for humans to find us, to take pity on us, to bring us into their homes. And then we feed. We grow strong on human compassion, on the love you give us. And when we're strong enough, we take what we really need, which is everything. Your family, your children, your lives. We consume it all. That's what Wendigo do. That's what we've always done. Wendigo. The word hit me like a physical blow. I'd heard the stories growing up in Minnesota. Native American legends about cannibalistic spirits that possess people, drove them to consume human flesh, transformed them into monsters. But those were just stories, myths, not real, except Abel was real. And he was telling me he was Wendigo, that we'd found a Wendigo child in the woods and brought it into our home, fed it, loved it, given it exactly what it needed to recover from whatever had weakened it. You're not taking my family, I said. I'll kill you first. Abel laughed. That high, delighted laugh. You can't kill me. Not permanently. My kind don't die like humans do. We transform. We spread. You can hurt this body, but I'll just find another. And I'll remember. I'll remember you and Emma and Lucas and Sarah. And I'll come back for them eventually. I left the basement, locked it, tried to think. Sarah and I spent hours researching Wendigo legends. Found dozens of different versions, different descriptions, but common themes emerged. Wendigo were spirits of endless hunger. They possessed people or manifested as creatures. They were associated with winter, with starvation, with cannibalism, and they were nearly impossible to kill. Most legends said the only way to truly destroy one was to burn the heart and scatter the ashes, or to shatter the body with silver and fire. This is insane, Sarah said. We're talking about killing a 5-year-old child based on legends and the fact that he killed 2 animals. He's not a 5-year-old child, I said. He told us he's not. He's something ancient that was pretending to be a child. And he's planning to hurt our family. So what do you want to do? Murder him? And then what? How do we explain that to police? To Emma and Lucas? Sorry kids, we killed your little brother because we decided he was a demon. We were trapped. We couldn't go to authorities without sounding insane. Couldn't kill Abel without becoming murderers. Couldn't release him without endangering other families. And couldn't keep him locked up indefinitely without someone noticing. We decided to try containment. We'd keep Abel in the basement, tell people he was sick, needed quarantine. Buy ourselves time to figure out a real solution. It was a stupid plan. Desperate. But we didn't have better options. For 3 months, we kept Abel locked in that basement. We fed him, gave him water, tried to keep him as comfortable as possible while trying to figure out what to do. And every day, he got stronger. We'd hear him moving around down there at night, hear sounds that didn't sound human. Scratching, growling. Sometimes that layered voice speaking in languages we didn't recognize. Emma and Lucas came home in April. We told them Abel was very sick, had to stay isolated. They accepted it, kids do, but they missed their little brother. They'd ask to see him. We'd make excuses. It was breaking their hearts and ours. May 15th, 2022, everything fell apart. I came home from work to find the basement door open. Sarah was sitting in the living room, frozen, staring at nothing. Blood on her hands. Blood on her clothes. Sarah, what happened? Where's Abel? She looked at me with empty eyes. He got out. I don't know how. The lock was secure. I checked it this morning. But when I came home from the grocery store, the door was open and he was in Emma's room. My heart stopped. Where's Emma? Where are the kids? They're okay. They're okay. They weren't home yet, thank God. School bus was late. But Mike, he was in Emma's room, going through her things, smelling her clothes. And when I confronted him, when I demanded he go back to the basement, he attacked me. She lifted her shirt. Claw marks. Deep gouges across her stomach. Not fatal, but vicious. Made by hands that shouldn't have claws. He ran, she continued. When I fought back, when I grabbed the baseball bat from the closet and swung at him, he ran. Out the back door, into the woods. He's gone. We called the police then. Reported an intruder in our home who'd attacked Sarah. Described Abel, but as an unknown assailant, not our child. They took a report, promised to increase patrols in the area. But they couldn't do anything without evidence, without a suspect to investigate. That night, we told Emma and Lucas the truth. A version of it, anyway. That Abel had been very sick, sicker than we'd known. That he'd become dangerous. That he'd run away, and they couldn't go looking for him, couldn't try to find him. Needed to stay close to home and alert us immediately if they saw him. They didn't understand. How could they? Their little brother had disappeared. Their mother was injured. Their parents were terrified but couldn't explain why. Emma cried herself to sleep for weeks. Lucas had nightmares. And every night we'd hear sounds outside. Scratching at windows. Footsteps on the roof. That layered voice calling out names. Emma. Lucas. I miss you. I want to come home. He was stalking us. learning our patterns, waiting for his moment. June 21st, summer solstice. Longest day of the year. We'd installed new locks, security cameras, motion sensors. Turned our home into a fortress. Emma and Lucas weren't allowed outside, without direct supervision. We drove them to and from school, never let them out of our sight. But we couldn't stay vigilant forever. Couldn't maintain that level of security indefinitely. And Abel knew that. He was patient. Patient in a way that proved he wasn't a child. Wasn't human. That night, Sarah and I were watching TV. Emma and Lucas were asleep upstairs. We had every door and window locked. Every camera active. Every sensor armed. At 11:47 p.m., every light in the house went out simultaneously. Power cut. Backup battery systems for the security equipment failed. Everything went dark and silent. Stay with the kids, I told Sarah. Grabbed the gun I'd bought after Sarah's attack, loaded with silver bullets, because I didn't know what else to try. Made my way upstairs, using my phone light to see. Emma and Lucas's rooms were empty. Beds were disrupted like they'd been pulled out of them quickly. No signs of struggle. No sounds. Just gone. I heard Sarah scream from downstairs. Ran back down to find her standing in the kitchen, looking at the back door. It was open, and standing just outside, barely visible in the moonlight, was Abel. But not the Abel we'd found 3 years ago. Not even the yellow-eyed predator we'd locked in the basement. He'd grown. Transformed. He was maybe 6 feet tall now, impossibly tall for a 5-year-old. Emaciated, skeletal, skin stretched tight over elongated bones. His face was still recognizable, still Abel's face, but distorted. Wrong. His mouth was too wide, filled with those rows of teeth. His hands had become claws. His eyes glowed with that yellow light. And standing next to him, holding his hands, were Emma and Lucas. They looked calm, peaceful, not frightened at all. "Mom, Dad," Emma said in a dreamy voice. "Abel says we're going to be a family again. We're going to go live in the woods together, like a real family. He says he can teach us things," Lucas added, same dreamy tone. "Teach us how to be strong, how to never be hungry, how to live forever." "No," Sarah said. "Emma, Lucas, come back inside right now. That's not Abel. That's not your brother." Abel, the thing that had been Abel, smiled. "I'm exactly their brother. I've been their brother for 3 years. I've watched them grow, learned to love them in my way. And now I'm offering them something you never could. Freedom from weakness. Freedom from mortality. Freedom from human limitations." "You're offering them damnation," I said, raising the gun. "You're offering to turn them into monsters like you." "I'm offering evolution. Your kind is dying, slowly consuming itself, destroying its own world, trapped in bodies that fail and minds that break. My kind transcends that. We don't age. We don't sicken. We don't die. We only hunger. And that hunger makes us pure, makes us strong." "Let them go," Sarah begged. "Please. They're children. They don't understand what you're offering. They understand perfectly. I've been speaking to them for months. Through the walls. Through the doors. Telling them stories about the freedom of the forest. About the strength that comes from embracing hunger. They want this. Don't you, Emma? Don't you, Lucas?" And God help me, they nodded. Both of them. Looked at us with eyes that were starting to show flecks of yellow, and nodded. I aimed the gun at Abel. "I'm going to count to 3. Then I'm shooting. Let my children go, or I will kill you. You can't kill me, but you can try. And when you fail, when your silver bullets pass through me and I'm still standing, still smiling, your children will see how powerless you really are. And they'll understand why my way is better." I fired. 3 shots, center mass. The sound was deafening. The bullets hit Abel. I saw them impact, saw him stagger backward. But he didn't fall, didn't bleed, just stood there looking down at his chest where the bullets had hit, then back up at me. Still smiling. "Told you," he said. Then he turned and walked into the forest. And Emma and Lucas walked with him, holding his hands, looking back at us once with expressions that were already changing, already becoming something else. Then they disappeared into the trees. Sarah collapsed. I stood there, gun hanging useless in my hand, watching the forest where my children had vanished. We called the police, reported a kidnapping. They searched for weeks, found nothing. No trace of Emma, Lucas, or the thing that had been able. We've been living in this nightmare for 6 months now. Our children are gone, taken by something we brought into our home. Something we fed and sheltered and loved for 3 years. Something that used that love to gain strength and access to the most precious things we had. The police consider it an open case, but they've moved on to more recent investigations. They think Emma and Lucas ran away or were taken by some human predator. They don't believe us when we try to explain what really happened. How could they? But I know the truth. My children are out there in those woods, and they're changing, becoming what Abel is. Wendigo, creatures of endless hunger, wearing the faces of the children I raised. Sometimes late at night we hear them, scratching at windows, calling out to us. Mom, Dad, we miss you. We want you to come with us. We want you to be strong like we are. Their voices sound less human every time. More layered. More wrong. We're moving. Selling the house, leaving Minnesota, going somewhere far away where maybe those voices can't follow us. But I don't think distance will help. I think no matter where we go, we'll hear them. Because they're not just in those woods. They're in our heads, in our hearts, in the guilt and grief and horror of knowing we destroyed our own family by trying to help something that never needed help, that only needed us to be stupid enough to bring it home. This is part 2 of my story, the part where everything fell apart, the part where we lost everything. And I'm telling it because somewhere out there, someone else might find something in the woods that looks abandoned, that looks helpless, that looks like it needs rescue. And I'm begging you, whoever you are, don't take it home. Don't trust it. Don't love it. Because sometimes the things we save are the things that destroy us. Sometimes compassion is exactly what they're counting on. And sometimes the monsters don't hide in the dark. Sometimes we invite them in. Sometimes we feed them. Sometimes we love them. And by the time we realize what they really are, it's already too late. My name is Michael Hartley. I found something in the woods that I thought was a child. I raised it for 3 years. And it took everything for me. My family. My children. My life. Don't make the same mistake. Please. Don't make the same mistake.